Yeah, good morning. It's 8 a.m. on a beautiful Saturday morning. It's another good morning to have research training with us at the Manuscript Writing Hub. This month, we shall be going through an area of research that speaks to the depths of knowledge rather than the breadth of knowledge. Many of us are familiar with quantitative research that speaks to the paradigm of positivity. But what we'll be looking at is qualitative research that looks into the constructive paradigm of research. It's a lot to unbundle during the course of the month, and we have no other person than Professor Okpeyemi Okundayo, the Director of Center for Gender and Social Policy Studies in Obafemi Awolowo University, who will be taking us through the sessions through the months. She is a very renowned lecturer in the area of qualitative research, and the way she teaches is such that is relatable to the audience, and I'm sure you're going to have a swell time with her. Professor Kundayo, over to you, ma. Professor Kundayo, can you hear me? Professor Kundayo, you are muted.
Probably I'm muted now.
Okay.
All right, good morning once again.
Good morning, welcome, ma. Your slide is not on slideshow.
In my screen.
We can see your screen, but it's not on slideshow. If you can put it on slideshow. Yeah, I think we lost her. I'm sure she's going to join back shortly. Just to also mention that we have a very important program tomorrow, being the International Women's Day. That's March 8th. Tomorrow, 4 p.m., we shall be having a fireside chat between Professor Kunda, who will be listening to today, and our renowned mentor, Professor Morenike Folayan, who will be chatting and discussing about research and women in Nigeria. I'm sure you don't want to miss that. The link will be shared on the chat box shortly.
Am I audible now? Good morning.
Yes, we can hear you. Your slide is also coming up.
All right, thank you very much. I apologize. I think it's network, and I hope I survive and able to do well today with this annoying network.
Definitely. It's not on slideshow.
I didn't get that, please.
It's not on slideshow. It's if you can put it on slideshow so that it can be easier to see.
All right. My God, what's happening this morning? Let me take it down and try to. I apologize for all of this. Please.
No. Technology can be like that. So why Prof comes up, just to also give my own perspective of qualitative research. Before I got to start learning from Professor Kundayo, most of the times when they talk about qualitative research and they talk about methods, what I thought of is focus group discussion as the study design or interviews as being study design. But as Prof will get to mention during the course of the training, those are not study design. Prof, are you ready?
Yes, I am. If you can see my slide. Can you see my slide
Not,
now?
no, I'm not seeing it from my own end. I don't know. Vaida, can you see it from your
It's
end?
not up yet.
No, we are not seeing her slides yet.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I can see. So let me stop sharing again and show.
Yeah.
All right. So let me start without the slide so
Oh,
that I don't waste our time.
okay.
So good. I'm happy to be here. Azumi Ekundayo Doris. This morning, I would like to share with it, and as the slide hopefully comes on.
So sorry about that. Sometimes technology and network can fail us, even when you prepare for it. We'll await Professor Kunda to join us again on the call. Let's just stay put. Apologies for the network issues. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to get across to Professor Kunda if I can share the slide from my end. Thank you, and thanks for staying by. Yeah, so sorry. I just spoke with her. She's trying to join shortly. So sorry, we are having challenge. The room is filled up and she can't possibly join. So we're going to sort that out shortly. Hello, Prof. Hello, Prof.
Oh,
Welcome.
thank
Speak
you
now,
very
please.
much.
Hear me.
Yeah, thank you. So, I apologize. I wish it were not this way, but that's network for us and the situation we found ourselves with online network. So, what is qualitative research? Please help me share my slide so that it's easy for people to learn. I
Well,
promise.
I'm going to work on that and bring it up. We can start speaking while I bring it up.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I promise you won't note that the time is gone. I'll try to rush it. So, what is qualitative research and when do we use qualitative research? Qualitative research favors learning by experience. So you want to learn from people's experiences. You don't want to just um, help them box their research into numbers, but you want to help people hear their view. You want to understand their attitude and belief. You want to understand motives behind what they do. Why you want to try to understand why they do what they do. And most times you do not want to use numbers at all. So those are times when we do qualitative research. Now, I would want us, because I'm sure most of us are used to quantitative research. So I would want to take us through the differences between qualitative research and quantitative research. So we have ways to differentiate them is when we look at the purpose and the approach used. That's the first way. Another way is to look at the data type. What type of data do we gather? Another is the research question. What research questions do we form, or what questions do we want to answer? Also, to look at data collection method. How do we gather data? Also, we want to think of the differences in sampling types. How do we sample our respondent or participant? Also, we want to look at data analysis. How do we analyze our data set? Then the software that we use also brings a difference. And also how we interpret our data, the data gotten from the field. We interpret quantitative data differently from how we interpret qualitative data. And lastly, we'll be interested in the validity and reliability. So let's go over each of them. What the purpose that each of them serve? For qualitative, the purpose that it will serve is, like I explained in the meaning, is to understand and focus on the understanding of experiences. You want to know, give meanings to social context. Also, you want to explore the depth and complexity of issues, and also to emphasize subjective interpretations and reasons rather than just data sets. So you want to see reasons behind why people do things. You want to interpret more than sometimes more than what you see. You want to give meanings. You want to understand their lived experiences. Then you'll be favoring qualitative over quantitative. Now, for quantitative, the focus is usually on statistical analysis. You want to look at data, numerical data, mostly to establish patterns. You want to establish relationship between Y and Z, or X and Y, and you want to be able to generalize your results. So that's when we do quantitative. Also, when you want to test theories or test hypotheses, you want to confirm or test a theory or hypothesis, then you favor quantitative over qualitative. But in qualitative, all you're after is to understand some concepts, people's experiences, and their thought process. Also, we want to look at the data type. For quantitative, data type is usually numerical. When you want to say yes, no, meaning that you want to give yes, you want to make yes 1 and then no 0, or you want to do 1 and 2, such as that, you'll be doing quantitative. You want to make sure that your data is measurable, is is measurable, then you'll be doing quantitative. But for qualitative, is non-numerical, meaning is textual. You have to use words, typed out words. Now for the research question. What research question are we interested in when we use quantitative? For quantitative, we want to ask what you're interested in, how much of, or how often do you. So in your responses, we are expecting suddenly, often, not so often, or you say yes, no, I don't know. Those are the 3 options for some of the questions. Or you have the Likert scale, where you have the strongly agree, agree, don't know or neutral, then disagree and strongly disagree. Then you then assign 1 to 5 to the like card. So strongly agree, you could use 1 or you could use 5, depending on how you want to analyze your data set. But for qualitative, we're not emphasizing on relationship between X and Y, or neither do we want to look at the influence of X on Y. No, but we want people to give their own opinion on things. So the research questions will favor how and why most times. What, how, and why? How satisfied are you with your studies at the moment? We expect it to tell you all stories. Oh, well, I love my study. I love what I'm doing. I love to study psychology. I'm a psychology student. I love it, but I do not like my lecturer. Hey, I love lecturer B. I don't like the style that they're using. So you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Oh, I don't like the lecture class. The lecture style is boring, blah and blah and blah. So you tell us stories, or we ask, why do you people believe in God? Why do you choose to believe in God? I'm just using these examples to help us see some of the research questions that we can formulate from qualitative. Why do people believe in God? Oh, such a research question will generate lots of responses, and so our format of questioning would want us to elicit narratives. You want people to talk from their wealth of experiences, and that is when we do qualitative. Now, for data collection method, this is where people think the difference lies, but not just here. So the data collection method differs. For quantitative, we'll be doing survey, and then we'll be using questionnaire, we'll be using, we can do experiments, we can do quasi-experiments, we can do main laboratory experiments, and then we can use secondary data sets where you have the NDHS, and then you want to reanalyze your NDHS, then you'll be doing quantitative. But for qualitative, we'll be doing interviews, focus group discussion, you do observation. Also, you could do something like a secondary analysis where you want to analyze people's texts or documents. You want to do document analysis. You want to do biblical or spiritual, spiritual text analysis, like IFA definition text and the likes. Then you'll be doing qualitative, secondary kind of data analysis in qualitative research. So also for sampling, for qualitative, we usually would use smaller sampling size. And then we really would favor randomization. So you really would find randomization in qualitative, because your respondents are supposed to be purposively selected, because you have a reason for choosing a particular. For instance, you want people who believe in God. If you do randomization, and then you get to a place where is an atheist, the guy or the lady is an atheist, then it won't work. So we would favor non-randomization or non-probabilistic sampling technique, while quantitative would do both probabilistic and non-probabilistic sampling method, and can be able to generalize to the population, to the general population. Another thing that would want to look at is method of analysis. How do we analyze data sets? It differs. So in quantitative, we would be interested in, of course, I said testing hypotheses. We could do univariate, crosstabs, bivariate, regression, chi-square, and the likes. But in qualitative, you'll be doing coding, categorization of your code, and then eventually your analysis could be grounded theory analysis, where you want to form theory. You could be doing phenomenology analysis. You could be doing narrative and the likes. As we go on, we'll understand all of this. Now, for software used, for quantitative, you would do SPSS, data, Python, R, Excel, and the likes. But in qualitative, we'll be doing NVivo, Atlas TI, MassQDA, and the likes. So those are the softwares available for use. Now, for the interpretation, how do we interpret data sets? In quantitative, we do graphs, we do table, you can do bar charts, pie charts, histogram, then you do plot tests, like plot trend analysis, all sorts of ways of bringing out. You do tables, you tell us about the significance, statistical significance, the R, the T, the P, value equals the, and the likes. But in qualitative, we do graphs too, but not the graphs that we would be numbers. So we do graphs, you can do graphs, we have charts, we have word cloud, where you have pictures of the word that comes out the most, and then so in your research, what comes out strongly from what your participants have said. Then you have a picture of the word cloud, and then you have the strongest word being the biggest word. And then we have some K diagrams, we have the likes. So that's how we come up with the interpretation. Now, for validity and reliability, of course, we are used, or most of us are used to the reliability and validity that exists in quantitative, where you have the Chromfa alpha, you have the these coefficients, and then once is 0.89, it's high, and then the reliability is very reliable. And then when you have people talk to you about your content validity, phase validity, concurrent validity, and the like, construct validity. But in qualitative, the reliability and validity are quite about how transparent your work or your process of analysis was while you were doing the analysis. So it comes with trustworthiness, how trustworthy, how credible was your process, how transferable is what you've done. So if I do it again the way you stated in your research method session, maybe your chapter 3 or your chapter 4, if I write the same way you wrote, if I give the details that you give, and another person goes, if I read your work and I go to the field, would I be able to transfer what you've done? Would I be able to do it and find out about the same thing? Is your work dependable and conformability? So those are the types of forms of validity and reliability that we have in qualitative. Now, for the types of research methods that we'll go into, collection method, now we have interview, focus group discussion, observation, and like I said, document and text analysis. Now for interview. So what do we do in interview? Of course, we are all familiar with the word or the term interview. So we all say, "Oh, I got an interview," or "I'm going for an interview." And we know that most times interview is about questioning and responses. So there's somebody at the end of the table that questions you, and you on the other end of the table are supposed to give responses to the question. So it's usually oral, and then we expect that we have open-ended questions where the respondent can give his own views without being judged. So he can talk and talk and talk, and then hear his feelings, share his views, his opinion, his stories, as guided by your research questions or your interview guide. So that is interview. We have two types. We have the key informant interview and the in-depth interview. Now let's quickly rush through the differences between the two. So for key informant interview, these are supposed to be experts. So for instance, you want to go to the field to speak to those who use condoms. You're interested in people who are condom users, end users of contraceptives, but focus on condoms. And then you would start to think, who should be the experts of the usage of condoms? Should it be married people, or should it be single adolescents, or should it be social workers, sexual workers, sex workers rather? Who should be the key experts in the usage of condoms? Therefore, those will be the persons that you will go to. For instance, if you then decide that, oh, let's just go up to the field and then ask questions randomly from everybody, you might be tell that most of the persons that you would talk to have never used condom. So in this kind of study, your key informants, your experts in the key informants will then be those that you are sure would use condom, or those that you are sure would use are using condom, not assuming. And then maybe sex workers. You are sure that, or we should be sure that sex workers would use condoms, and those would be our key informant experts, because it's sure, either from literature, from experiences, that they are the experts of the usage of what we want to find out. So when we talk about key informants, we are talking about people who are knowledgeable, people who are like the experts. They are the ones that can identify this problem. They are sure to know about this problem. And then and sometimes, because you have less time to spend on the field, you want to go straight to your key informant. You don't want to dance around, like I said. You don't want to dance around the married, then the undergraduates, then the sex workers before you. If you'll be doing that because you have time, you'll be doing in-depth interviews. So you're looking at the general people, and then you can stumble on those who are experts, but you would also get information from the general people. Maybe they've used it at one point or the other, they will be able to tell you, but they are not sole users at the moment of your interview. So that's, and then most times it's key informants might not be the true representation of the general population. In depth, of course, you have general people. Remember, you are going to be looking at adolescents, questioning also sex workers, and also questioning married people. So those will be a better representation of your population, and that will be in-depth interview. Now let's quickly rush over observation. What is observation? Observation, I tell people, is a qualitative method that you use your 5 sensory organs. You see, you use your eyes, you touch, you smell, you taste, you hear. So it's bigger than interview. It's a lot more. It's not just asking questions. It's you are not asking, but you are in that space to see, to hear, to feel, to taste, to sense, to enjoy the space. But not as you enjoy the space, you have your checklist, you have the things that you must note that you are writing down. And that is observation. So observation isn't just about the eyes. Because most times when people talk about observation, we think, okay, what I see. But sometimes what I sense, what I feel, what I smell could be used as, it could be data sets. For instance, you are a surgeon, or you are going into a theater room to observe how a particular type of surgery, maybe colonoscopy, permit me if I don't get it right, but if there's something in the theater that you want to observe or you want to learn, you're doing observation. And then you go into the theater with the set of people that should be there. And then you are not just seeing, you are hearing, you are seeing. So you are writing down the things that you're observing, that you are seeing. You are writing down the things you are hearing. You are writing down the things you are smelling. For instance, maybe there's a particular way blood should smell. I'm assuming now, please. There's a particular way blood should smell. And the blood of the person on the table is not smelling the way it should smell. That's something to write about. So you're going to be seeing, smelling, touching, tasting. Don't taste blood, please. And then hearing. Okay, so that's about observation. Now quickly, let's go to focus group discussion. Focus group discussion is the most sometimes most interpreted or most used, most misused of all the data collection method that we have in qualitative. I said that because people we do sometimes do focus group discussion as if we are doing interview, but they differ. Now, how do we use focus group discussion? Most times we use focus group discussion when we want to look at the norms of a group, the norms of a culture. It's most times about a group dynamics. You want to understand a grouping, or you have the phenomenon of interest is sensitive, is not going to be easy to get, but you feel that if you bring people together, the thought of sharing one's perspective would help another hear their own view and like that. So that's where we use focus group discussion. We use it when we think that what we want to share is sensitive, is not interesting, is something people would not want to talk about. Let me see, for instance, condom usage among married people, and then you bring married people together to talk about condom or contraceptives generally. It's something that they might not want to share, but then as one person is talking, or you give some instances of, oh, it's not about you but your group, what do you think in this your community? How can we make better the condom usage? You discover that in that community, family spacing of child spacing isn't easy. You've done all sorts of intervention in that community, talk to them about condom usage, you've talked about all the family planning or contraceptives that exist, but they still give birth to an average of 6-7 children per family. Then you want to understand what exactly is the problem with this community. Is there a motivation for giving birth to children? So it's about the community, it's about the group, it's about the norms of that society, and then you bring them together to talk, and then the community head talks, and then people talk, and this one is saying his own, and then you try to bring it out of them, information needed. Then we'll be doing focus group discussion. Now you see that it won't be easy for one person to do focus group discussion. So most times you have the moderator, that is the interviewer, the person that will be doing the speaking, and then we have note taker or note takers as we allow, or as funds or resources allow. And typically, you would expect that there should be an average of 8 to 12 persons. So there is a different school of thought. Some feel that it should be 6 to 12 or 6 to 10. Some favor that it should be 8 to 12. So it depends. I would say that it depends on what you are asking, what you are interested in knowing. Because sometimes when you have so large a group, some persons wouldn't talk, and then when you have so little a group, is not, for instance, you have people, 4 persons in a group, it might not be, the dynamics might not be interesting for the group to bubble up. You want a bubbling group, you want a group that people speak up. So you want to balance the number depending on what you are interested in study. And as we go to transcription, we'll talk about the differences in transcription between interviews and focus group discussion, because that's one thing again that people mix up. So you do your transcription for focus group as if you're transcribing for interview. All right, so we also would want to look at document and text, like I said, and for documents, you want to look at maybe policy documents, you want to look at the Bible, and then you want to look at maybe contraceptive use in the Bible. I don't know, I'm just saying, maybe you're interested. Oh, okay, so how was child spacing done in biblical text? So you sit down with the Bible and then look for places where such was talked about, and then you want to write about that. Or maybe you're interested in concubinage, and then you look at, and then you sit down with the different texts that talks about the life of Solomon in the Bible, and then you sit with it, and then you write about that. You give your own interpretation, your own views, and then you'll be doing text or document analysis. Or you want to look at the gender policy, OE gender policy, and then you want to see, okay, what's where you want to try to uncover some meanings, some themes. You want to look at patterns based on maybe the culture of OAU. You feel, oh, OAU is very patriarchal. So for you, you want to sit down with the gender norms and see, even those who are at the Center for Gender and Social Policy Studies, are they still patriarchal in their thoughts? Are they still patriarchal in their in the documents? And then you sit down with the documents and you interpret the documents, and then you bring out some the nuances and some interpretations and some meanings from the document. So that is what would be learning across the 4 weeks that we will be speaking. Thank you for listening. I apologize again that the start was not so interesting, but I promise you that next week will be better, and I'm sure that we would learn some. So what I would challenge us with in the next 15 minutes is to then start to think and then come to the chat box and start to engage on your thoughts on qualitative. What research questions do you think you've worked on that didn't, or people felt it didn't fit into qualitative? Or what are you thinking on now that you think you might want to share with us, to go through this quickly to see if it will favor qualitative or quantitative? So what I'm trying to say is I'm challenging us to think around what we've learned this morning and come up with a title, a situation around you, a phenomenon around you that you are interested in, that you think you want to use qualitative with, or you want to explore qualitative with, and let's look through it this morning. Dr. Kudus will help me a bit so that we'll go through if there we have people, because we want it to, at the end of the 4 weeks, I want us to be experts of qualitative research and also be able to have learned how to use qualitative, not just in the head, but practically. I hope this makes sense. All right, so that's over to Ross, Dr. Kudus. Is he here? Thank you very much. Please, how can we ensure we don't turn a... Okay, so maybe let me, since I'm on my own, let me read through. So thank you.
I'm going to read through, ma.
You said?
I'm going to help you read through.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
So over to you.
Okay, ma. So the first one says, thank you so much, ma. Please, how can we ensure we don't... Sorry. I missed that particular. Okay, let me read this one that's in. I have a question. Is Delphi method also part of qualitative discussion? If yes, what are the criteria for conducting FGD, and is there any difference between FGD, KII, and Delphi method?
Thank you very much. I do not know the alpha method, and I don't say what I don't know. I'll read through and get back to you. Please remind me next week once you come in. I don't know what Delphi, except the person is willing to enlighten us a bit, then I would know what it means. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody also asked that, please, can you explain rural participatory appraisal?
Rural participatory appraisal.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that is it a form of research method, data collection?
Probably that's what the person meant.
All right, so it's not a form of appraisal. Is like M&E, is like what you, is like you've done your intervention and then you're going back to test for what you've done. So it's not a form of qualitative research method, it's a form of M&E method. Over to you, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma. Please, how can we ensure we don't turn a FGD to an interview session?
All right, thank you very much. That's a very brilliant question. Like I said, focus group discussion is one of the methods that we haven't kind of used to, we assume, okay, let me say that, we assume we know, but we don't take time to learn to know. There's that tendency of turning focus group to interview, but because interviews can be done with more than one person, like an interviewer can be, the persons conducting interviews can be more, while the person we are interviewing is just one person. But for a focus group discussion, the moderator is one person, and then we have the participants as many. That's one difference. Also, one way to not turn focus group discussion to interview is when you do not allow one person to continue to respond, and it takes experience. For instance, you have the group of 6 persons seated together. You would know that normally in a group, there will be somebody that wants to talk again and again and again and again. And if you're not careful, it dominates the conversation, and others just keep quiet and say, oh, we agree with her, or we agree with him, is the expert here. So you as a moderator would need to be polite enough to bring the group together, to make sure that everyone talks. So as you go into focus group discussion, you already are giving them a pseudonym. Probably you are P1, you are P2, you are P3, or decided to give them if they are all women, female, then you give them, what I do is to give them like Abeke, Apeke, Amokwe, and then kind of like give them such names. So as you go on, you just ask, oh, Abeke has been talking, and then you say, Amokwe, what's your view of this question? You ensure that everybody speaks. If not, it becomes a one-on-one conversation between the most aggressive respondent and then the moderator. And then others will just start to nod their head and say, oh, we agree with Abeke because she's the outspoken person. So you make sure that you include Amokwe, Ashake, Asumo, and all of them, and make sure that you hear their view. You encourage everyone in the group to talk. It's one of the responsibility of the moderator to insist that everyone's voice is heard in focus group. So that's the difference. The numbers of participants per group. For focus group discussion, you have more than one participant or respondent, and then you have the note taker and moderator. But for interview, you can have 2 persons interviewing, and then you have one interviewee. That is one person responding. But those are the responses that I have. And over to you.
Okay, when you are talking about observational data collection, you said we can document our feelings too, ma. Won't that create observational bias?
All right, thank you. Focus group discussion, sorry, please. Observation is done with a checklist. Observation, let me go say that again. Observation is done with a checklist. Observation, we don't just go to do observation in the theater room, like the example I cited, and then you just start to say, okay, the head surgeon is wearing a blue scrub. Then those are not what you are in the room for. Your observation checklist guides you, and that streamlines or downplays bias and brings down your biases, because already you know what you are in the theater room to observe. You're not just there to say, okay, so because we learned observation, I would love to go to join the surgeons to do some dental kind of surgery tomorrow, because I heard, observation can be done. So I entered their theater, and then I'm with them observing just to enjoy myself. In fact, in the first place, you won't be allowed ethically. So just to state that you are in the observation space with some questions ahead, and that's what we call observation checklist. Just as when you are going for interview, you have your interview guide. You have either the structured or the semi-structured interview guide. For focus group discussion, you have what you go to ask from your respondents. You don't just go there and say, okay, whatever they say, concerning contraceptive use. Oh, okay, so we want to talk about contraceptive. Once I get there, anything they say, anything interesting that comes out of their mouth, we just continue with that conversation like that. No, you go with your own interview guide. Same way when you want to do observation, you must go with observation checklist. What are the things you must observe? If not, you can get interested in something else other than your research question that took you into the theater. So, and because you have that checklist, it guides or it can minimize your biases. It guides what you're observing. It guides what you can smell or what you are how to smell, what you are how to feel, what you are how to touch. It guides all of those. So it's not just allowing your feelings run you over. Someone like me will get to the theater and start crying, of course, because you see somebody that is lying down. I'm assuming, I've never been there before, that might start crying with the blood all over. So it's guided. Thank you. Over to you. Hello. Hello.
Sorry, ma'am.
Yep.
In place of hypothesis, I know we
Mm.
use propositions in qualitative research, but how do we go about generating propositions? How do we test the propositions in qualitative research? Or how and where do we report the outcome of our stated proposition in qualitative research?
Excellent question. So what we do in qualitative research is objective. We have research questions and we have objectives. We do not have hypotheses because we are not testing relationship between X and Y. So you're not testing relationship between child spacing of family planning method and child spacing. No, you are how to so your objective guides your thoughts, guides what you are looking for, guides how you run your interview guides your data collection method, guides your analysis, and then your reportage. As we go on, we would, I hope, hopefully for time, we'll be able to talk about some of the analysis, how we do analysis, and how we report, how we write our interpretation. When you interpret, how do you write? How do you do report writing, if time permits? So just follow me as it's just this first day is just to whet your appetite on knowing that qualitative methods can be very interesting. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If a study is to be conducted on patterns of health workers' documentation in a particular unit, and patients' case notes are to be reviewed, can this be a qualitative research? If yes,
Yeah.
what will be the sample size?
Thank you. Okay, so like I said, we can review documents, and case files are documents. But note that in review of documents, just like when I talked about using secondary data in quantitative, I also talked about that you could do secondary data in qualitative. And that's when I talked about documents, because the document is not primarily your own information. You didn't go to the field to get those documents. Those documents already exist. So you're kind of doing like a secondary analysis of those analysis of those secondary data. Having said that, case files are documents too that can be analyzed. Now, how do you know the sample that you would choose? As we go on here, we would understand sampling. Remember, I said there's no randomization in the sampling for qualitative. Our sampling is mostly purposive. If you're interested in case files, it will be case files of those that interest you. Like you are out for a reason. For instance, is saying that I can't remember what he or she is interested, but something about case files of patients. Now, there will be some specific type of patients that you're interested in studying. You won't just pick all the files of every patient that ever passed through that clinic. But maybe, for instance, patients between ages blah blah blah, or patients with chronic cases or patients with, there will be a dynamics that something you're interested in studying, and that will guide your sampling, that will guide your choice. But note that most times you are allowed purposive in qualitative. You can be very purposive. You can say, okay, I'm choosing these four because their story strikes me most. That's the justification. It strikes you most. It strikes you most. There's nothing we can do about it striking you most. So, or their stories of interest to you. Why not? So, that guides, and then I hope I answered the question. But thank you. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Ma. Please, Ma, on policy documents, how do we draw the nuances and interpret it?
Because for each, okay, so let's go over document analysis again, because it looks like those questions are coming because I didn't dwell so much on document analysis. Now, for each of the data collection method that we use in qualitative, remember there are objectives. There are things you want to, you can't just take the whole, for instance, you can't take the whole Bible as a document. You can't take the whole Bible and say, I want to study Bible. Or you have a research observation that research question that says, why does God exist? It's rather not measurable. It's too broad. It's too big. So if you take that to your biblical text, or you take it to your Quranic text, and then you want to check, okay, why does you burn out, because it's a whole text, is a text of generations to generation to generation. It's a big text. But if in that text you want to see maybe the discourse, meaning the way languages, the language, or I don't know about language, the semantics and the syntax and the phonics used in this text, you want to see how that can encourage concubinage, for instance, or discourage concubinage. Then you go to probably Songs of Solomon. I'm just taking all of this from my head. You go to Songs of Solomon, and then you want to check that out. It's doable. But if you say you want to look at the whole biblical text or the whole Quranic text, you'll be there forever. So, bringing it back to other policy documents. In that document, what do you want to analyze? You can't analyze the whole document. Well, you can if you have funds and it's a big team. But if it's just a student who wants to do MSc, PhD, BSc, and then you want to look at the whole document, you would burn out. But there's something in that document that you want to analyze. Maybe I can't think of anything on my head now, but there will be there's an objective, there's a focus, there's a reason why you want to analyze that document. There's something you're looking for. If you are in languages, maybe you want to interpret or analyze the language used. If you are in sciences or you are in social sciences, maybe you want to look at the group dynamics, how the policy is taking or has taken care of group dynamics. Something about that policy document or whatever document that will pop at you, that you have an objective for or a research question for, but not all the documents. I hope that helps us. Thank you.
Okay, someone also asked that if document analysis alone is publishable in high impact journal.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful question. Yes, they are. Policy documents are analyzed. You argue your points, and then you are published. In fact, some publications or some journals would ask you for, if you've seen the core, so they'll say, is it empirical, is it policy analysis, is it secondary data? It shows to you that those are good places to analyze or write on, but that we don't right on, or we rarely do for those who do not. Over to you. So they are publishable.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. It's top of the hour already, and we should be rounding up. But because of the technical issues we had at the start, I plead that we allow us have another 10-15 minutes, if that's fine by you, Prof.
It's beautiful.
All right. Okay. Farida, please continue.
Okay, how can
Please
we
continue with the question.
incorporate the result of the FGD in discussion of results?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
How can we incorporate the result of FGD in discussion of results?
All right, thank you. Beautiful question. You note that when I was talking about interpretation and how we do reports, I say that sometimes, and when I was talking about the differences between HGD and IGI or KII interviews generally, I stated that sometimes people kind of mix interpretation help and then start to I've been at exams before several times, and I noted that the way you have interpreted your focus group discussion, or the way you are reporting your participants' responses in your report, shows that you've turned your focus group discussion to interview. So you've we for focus group discussion is about, remember I said it's about group dynamics, it's about the group. It's about participant A in the group. For instance, depending on your report writing style, are you doing participant by participant, which we'll get to maybe in the second week or third week? Are you doing participant by participant analysis and reportage, or are you doing case by case reportage? If you're doing case by case, for instance, which is likely that you would do in focus group discussion, you would have the case stated. For instance, let's assume we are doing contraceptive use and then or condom usage, and then you want to talk about the first time these respondents used condom. So you say first age at first condom usage, or condom first time debut of condom usage. Then as you report, you are going to be reporting participant A in the first group. For instance, you did 5 focus group discussions. You want to let us know that participant A, if you have used participant A, you've labeled them by alphabets, or you've labeled them by figures, or you've given them pseudonyms. I love to use pseudonyms. You're giving them the Amokpe or the Akoni, that's men's name, Akoni, Ajani, Ajayi. You've given them those kind of names, or you've given them the Ashakwe, Ashake if they are female. Then, so you come and say, in this group, in group 1, Ashakwe reported that, and then you have it that way. You wouldn't be, it must be clear that it's not just as we report in interview, where you've analyzed and then you now have, I wish I could display examples, but as we go on, I'm sure we'll understand. Then you have the respondents excerpt, and then you have their name on that. It will be different when it has to be clear to us as your audience, your readers, that this is analysis of focus group discussion as different from analysis of interview. But also note that you can triangulate your results. You can triangulate your focus group discussion with your interview and your observation, meaning that you can use your focus group discussion to corroborate or disagree with what your interview has said. And it was clear that this is focus group discussion talking here, and this is interview. So when I went in the first group, this was told to me that, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then as I asked further, one of my participants in the interview with the name Ashakwe said blah 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 blah. So you are using your interview to triangulate your focus group discussion. So that also can be done. It depends on how interesting you want your write-up to be. But I'm sure we would understand all of this as we go on, so that we don't sit here. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Ma. For quantitative, we use COMBRAC for reliability and validity. How do we know such in qualitative research?
All right, thank you. I'm sure this person came late or a bit late. So I explained when I was talking about validity and reliability that in validity for quantitative, it's done by numbers. 0.98 Chrombat alpha says that what you've done or your questionnaire is very reliable. It's high. You've asked right questions and the likes. In qualitative, we have what we call the trustworthiness. We would still go over all of this. We have what we call consistency. It's consistency that you would use to understand how consistent is your work. If somebody else, if you explain and another person does this, and then to also state that as you code, you are not the only person coding. So you have the coder reliability too, or intercoder reliability, or coder recoder reliability. Meaning that if I code, we decided that this document will have the themes, or we want to do deductive or inductive coding, and then we've decided these are the themes that we are going to go with. If we already know our themes before after the field. So I got my field, and I know what I want to go and look for at the field. And as I got to the field, I already have my teams. And I got back home, as I started to do my analysis, we as a team, maybe a team of 2, had sat down with the transcripts, and we decided these are the things that we will generate, or that we generated before going to the field, depending on which we want to do, inductive or deductive. Now, so as we start with the first transcripts, let's assume we had 8 transcripts or 84 transcripts, depending on how many interviews you did. Excuse me. So we decided that we first go and read and reread and reread. That's what coding process takes. You read and read and read again. So I would go with document A. The other person too goes with document A. And then we read and we coded together. Or we coded differently. Then we bring together and see how much of what we have done is similar. If we've done it in most of the softwares now, you can run your intercoder reliability. Just bring the 2 documents together and see how strongly have you been able to code. So it minimizes loss of data. It minimizes loss of information, because you know that there's a check, quote and unquote, and balance. You are going to check each other. And that is how to generate your reliability. Is it credible? Is it transferable? What you've done? Would I be able, by the time I read through your work, can I vouch that your work is transferable? Can I vouch that how much of dependability can your work give to me? But we don't have numbers. It won't come with some of them. The intercoder reliability comes with numbers. We generate some numbers for you, some codes for you, but not all. Others is how much of, permit me to use this Yoruba word, how much of ejowewe, how much of explanation did you do, that if I, as a neutral person, takes your work and I read through, I can understand it clearly and it's sure. I can vouch for you to a large extent that this person indeed went to the field. But if you kept so much to yourself and you think that I should assume or read it from your brain, then we'll say your work is not valid, neither is it reliable. But don't worry, we'll get there. Over to you.
Okay, ma. Can we use both qualitative and quantitative method as mixed methods, since qualitative research may not be as generalizable as a quantitative?
Excellent question. Yes, we can. And that's what you've answered yourself, that's what we call mixed method approach. So you feel that you have 4 objectives and you think that objective 2 will be better with qualitative, while the 4 other objectives will be um, answered better by quantitative, then you do mixed method. Sometimes also you can have all the 4 questions that you think that you could do quanti and quali for, and then bring together to triangulate. So it depends on what you're how to get. Not necessarily, not always necessarily because you want to generalize, but because you feel that some of the responses that you will get from quantitative or qualitative might not be enough for what you want to what you seek out to get. Then you want to bring the two together. So it's not always about generalization, but about what you are how to, what is your objective about? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you on the field to study what you want to study? If you think that qualitative would be the best, then you do qualitative. If you think that quantitative would answer it best without stressing, then you do quantitative. And then if you think, oh, neither qualitative nor quantitative will be able to do it all, I think I'd rather do both, then you do both. So, but it comes with what are you willing to know? What are you studying? What do you want to study and why? And so that helps to know which you should favor or which you should do. Don't just do mixed method for doing mixed method. Oh, now is the trend in our department, is a trend. A trend that is that if you want to do MSc, you should do mixed method. They won't allow you as PhD students if you don't do mixed method. So you say, oh, okay, yeah, let's do it. Oh, yeah, let's go there. So you bring quantitative and qualitative together just for the sake of it, just to enjoy yourself. No, and that's why most times you see when you read mixed method research, you discover that one is favored above the other because or the researcher would focus on one and then suddenly had qualitative on and say, okay, so I did interview, and then you are wondering from chapter 1, there has not been a reflection of this candidate is ever going to do qualitative, but just felt, oh, that's a trend, and then added it on, and then started to do interview, and then you, after the interpretation and the analysis and everything, you discover that the qualitative has no bearing on the study. It's just a waste. The candidate has just wasted his or her time doing qualitative. So I think it's from the word go. What are your research questions? What are your objectives? What are you after? What do you want to get? That would determine if you're going to be doing mixed method, purely qualitative method, or purely quantitative method. And please note, you can do any of it. You're a researcher, your choice, the choice is yours. You can decide to do, oh, in our department, they don't do qualitative, but I've decided that it's qualitative. As long as you're sure of what you're doing and you are sure of your onions, you know what you want to do, you are sure, and then you can justify and be able to defend what you want to do. And if in your department they are favored always quantitative, what the question is, what are you doing? What do you want to add? Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you just doing it for fancy, for beauty? Oh, it sounds beautiful to say I'm doing phenomenological study. It sounds very touche. It sounds very fancy. Phenomenological interpretative analysis. Oh, big grammar. What? Why? How? To what end? So I think it's about what you want to study, not about what research style or what research approach in itself, but what are you out to study? Thank you. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Ma. We are really excited and grateful that you've given so much of yourself and given of your time to really share with us this past few minutes. Thank you so much. We are grateful to you. And I see, we have There's so much interest being generated. We have full capacity here on the Zoom, and also on the YouTube, we had over 150, which means we've had almost like 300, if not more, participants at this session. So there's a lot of interest generated. This is just to let us know that today has just been an introductory session. So once again, we want to thank you all for staying, and we apologize for the initial hitches we had. Of course, some of those technological network problems, many times you may not really be able to surmount some of them, but thank God we've been able to come through. We'll be continuing this series next week. So this is to invite us, make sure that you are here. For the other questions we were not able to take, I'm certain that some of those questions would already be answered by the time we take some of the other sessions, but just in case they are not answered, feel free, for those of us on the WhatsApp group, you can drop the questions on the WhatsApp group. Prof will be able to, Prof is also there with us, we'll be able to answer them as best as we can. And just to also let us know that Prof will still be with us again tomorrow. So we are privileged to have her join us for the International Women's Day special events. We'll be having Professor Ekundayo and our own mentor, Professor Morenike Folanyo. It's going to be an exciting time, something you don't want to miss. It's going to be the glass ceiling effects. I'm sure you want to learn more about that. Yes, I will be attending, even though I'm not a woman. So if you are a woman, if you're a man, you should attend. It's the glass ceiling effect, talking about breaking barriers for women in research. So please do well to join us. It's tomorrow. The links have been shared. It's 4 p.m. tomorrow. Please make sure you are there. You don't want to miss it. And on the 21st of March, we're also having another session, our webinar for the month of March. You also see the links in the WhatsApp group and in different platforms. So once again, we want to thank you for staying with us. We want to thank our IT team for standing in. We want to thank our facilitators, and most importantly, want to especially thank our teacher for today, Professor Ekundayo. In fact, so many comments on the WhatsApp and on the Zoom platform chat box, thanking you and appreciating the beautiful session. We also have same on the YouTube platform. Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you, man. So at this point, we'll just call it a day. We've run past the hour, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.